Steven Spielberg is back with a brand new alien adventure. This is Disclosure Day.
So this is Spielberg's fourth Alien film. Of course, he started way back in the 70s with Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Then you got E.T., and then the less kind of talked about and liked War of the Worlds, which we had a fun time when we visited the set of that out there in Universal Hollywood. But yeah, he's back after so long. You know, that was War of the Worlds was 2005, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. It's been quite a while since he's done other sci-fi stuff, but he hasn't really done aliens. And with Disclosure Day, he really showed that he's a master of his craft to me. Like I really enjoy this film. It's one that's really interesting because it moves quickly, but it's a slow burn at the same time. Like you're getting a lot of things happening and going all at once, but the mystery and the story of it is unfolding very, very slowly because you're getting that build up and you really don't get that big payoff until like the very end. But I had a great time with it. It was something that was really enjoyable to me. I love the little just nuances that Spielberg does with his films in the different ways. Like, even some things that's like, all right, we're just going to show a computer screen. Why don't we flip the camera upside down and like a 360 turn around the back of it or a 180 and just show, okay, let's do that. Like it's Spielberg being Spielberg, but I really enjoyed it. But overall, Disclosure Day is about Dr. Daniel Kellner. He worked for this company, Wardex, who has basically since the 40s been hiding that extraterrestrials are here, that aliens are here on Earth, all the different types of interrogations and technology and actual creatures that they found. They've been hiding it for so long, and Dr. Kellner got to a point that he decided that he was going to release it, and it's going to be Disclosure Day. They're going to let the entire world know that we are not alone and that aliens exist. But it gets a little bit kind of trickier as we kind of learn how the alien technology has been around and how the government and this company is using it and how people have been affected by it. And it goes into a lot of the standard type of UFO stuff that's of being kidnapped by UFOs and experimented on and all, Area 51, just kind of going through all the hit points. But I think he did such a fun job of laying out kind of what we know, but also giving us a little different take, going a little bit more into the sci-fi aspect of an alien, not invasion, but of aliens being here amongst us on Earth.
Sure. I mean, it's got a lot of different commentary in this. Like, it's got a little political commentary. It's got a little social commentary. It's got a little religious commentary in it because there's a lot of different, like, spiritual and religious themes that are tied into this as well. And I'm kind of in the same boat as you, man. Like, this feels like a classic Steven Spielberg type movie. Mm-hmm. Like, the attention to detail that he gives in so many scenes is just insane. Like, the eye that he has for that sort of thing is really incredible. And he doesn't direct as much anymore, but, he still helps produce and do a lot of other things behind the scenes. But him back in the director's chair is just a treat to watch. He had so much. You could just tell when you're watching a Spielberg film and in the way that he shoots his scenes and the way he lets things linger a little bit and lets the story breathe, which he does in spades here. It is a longer film. It's almost 2.5 hours runtime. Mm-hmm. Like, it is a longer movie, but you do kind of just let each scene breathe a little bit and you kind of get lost in the world that they're in. And he does such a good job of creating that immersive experience for you in the film. It just makes him such a fantastic director. And I just really love the way he tells his stories in these films that he does. And one thing I really want to highlight as well is he always has, one thing you think about with Spielberg films is the classic soundtrack and the sounds and everything with that. He got John Williams to come out of retirement.
He's 94.
He's 94, but they got to collaborate again. And I think this makes the 30th movie they've done together?
Yeah, because the last Indiana Jones film was supposed to be because Spielberg executive produced it, that was kind of supposed to be John Williams' final, and
he talked
him into coming back out of retirement at 94 to score this film.
Just absolutely incredible. And John Williams is one of the all-time greatest composers, like especially modern composers of all time. Like he's just so incredible in the way that he can take music and match the story. Like it's a perfect combination when you have Spielberg and John Williams collaborating on things, because they have just a laundry list of your favorite movie soundtrack moments. Like one or both of them are involved in it, and it's just awesome that he got him to collaborate one more time with this, because the sound's incredible in this, and like it's just that little minor attention to detail that just it works so well with this. And you talk about Josh O'Connor as Daniel Kellner, who's one half of the main characters in this film. You also have a very strong performance from Emily Blunt as Margaret Fairchild in this, and how their stories are kind of intertwined throughout this whole story, because you get to the root of why these two are connected so much throughout the film, because it's teased and it's brought along, and what are their connections to each other, and it really pays off big by the end when you see how intertwined they are together, and just kind of serving this singular purpose of sharing this information with everybody. And it's just so well done, because you get a little bit of everything in this movie. You get action, you get a little bit of ludicrous comedy, you get, some really serious, deep, introspective things that you get in this film. And it's got a little bit of everything, just kind of scratch every itch you could want in a movie. And they do it so well, and it's so well balanced that nothing really seems to overpower the other. It does linger a little bit more into the deep introspective thinking and, dealing with the spirituality and dealing with everything like that. It gets very deep for a science fiction movie. Like this is one of the deeper science fiction movies I can recall in a long time, because, you're just kind of in there in this world and just seeing things through people's perspectives, and you're imagining yourself in that world that he's created, and it's just such a job well done for that man. I really enjoyed kind of being caught up in what was happening.
Yeah, Emily Blunt was fantastic in this. She just shows just what kind of powerhouse of an actress she is. It's one that I think is Oscar worthy, but it's so hard to tell anymore if something like this, especially being in a sci-fi production, would warrant anything from it, because she is a British actress playing an English, American. But she's also throwing in a little bit of a Kansas City Southern accent kind of in there. But you also get her going all over the place because of, and as a story without spoiling anything, she is a weather woman for a Kansas City news station. But she ends up having kind of a moment on live air where she, we've seen it in the trailers, where she starts clicking and making these noises, and you're really not sure what's going on. And from that point, you really get a frantic, hectic, crazy, over-the-top performance from her, but it's done so well. Like, you get to see her go through a panic attack, and you can feel that emotion and feel that through her of how she's struggling. I think Emily did such a fantastic job in this of conveying that emotion, but also going into the deeper, darker heart of the overall story with it. And Josh O'Connor is fine, but he is involved in a few of the more comedic elements that just kind of took me a little bit out of the movie, because the Vortex company has agents that it sends out to try to stop this information from being leaked. And that's kind of the whole underlying story of it, that Dr. Kellner stole all of the data that he could to expose them all, and it's all about a back and forth about them trying to get that information back, because it's videos, it's audio, it's everything that they have on aliens. But man, those agents are so laughable in many parts. Like there's one part that takes where they surround a house, but there's not a single agent that's looking behind him. And you just have Josh O'Connor's character crouching down through an open field, hiding behind thin little branches of ivy and stuff off of a fence line, and he's never seen. But they're so inept through this whole film. And it's the one real point that I disliked about the movie, because it took me out a little bit of how campy almost these agents were. They were so inept at doing their job that it was laughable in moments. And it's a mostly serious film overall. There's a few laughs that are meant to be had. I don't know if you particularly were supposed to be laughing at those moments with the agents being just so over, and it's 3 or 4 sequences of it, especially towards the end. There's one that's just like, I was expecting to hear the Benny Hill theme playing, because it got that kind of almost over the top. Like, that's the only parts of this I could really nitpick was off with me were those agents.
Yeah, it was very absurd. It felt like, if you've ever played a game, I want to bring it back to gaming a little bit. If you've ever played a game where part of your mission is like stealth, and you have to kind of creep around and be quiet to avoid being discovered, it felt like this was shot in a way that if you took the difficulty and put it on bare bones minimum easiest mode ever whatsoever, almost like you could run through everything and not be heard. That's kind of what this felt like, because he was very clearly making noise in this open field, especially. Like, it just goes all the way around. Painstaking. This is the one scene that drug on way too long for me. But it was him running around, and I don't care to spoil this because it's an easy part of the film. It's about midway, 2/3 of the way through it. But he's sneaking around the back end there to get into the last car, and nobody's stopping when they hear a door shut. Nobody's like doing anything when you hear him creeping through this area, and they're supposed to be on high alert looking for this guy. And it was just super absurd, the easy level of agents that they had in this for supposedly being as dangerous and potent as they are kind of intended to be, but not intended. Like, it was,
and like a moment right before that, they're told he's outside of the house,
right?
So no one's looking.
They're not looking
at
in
all
all directions. Like, my God. But yeah, one absolutely absurd thing. I do want to give a little bit of credit as well to Colin Firth, who plays Noah Stanton, who is the leader, the head guy at Ward X. He's kind of the guy responsible for overseeing everything, and he's very heavily involved in this as well. And a really solid performance from him too, is kind of like the bad guy here, who in a lot of ways is not afraid to get his hands dirty in some cases. Like, he's not as active in like apprehending people, obviously, but he does play a very big role in, getting his hands dirty and being involved in certain things and certain aspects of this movie that I think are done really, really well. Is he's the guy that's so desperate to keep the secrets. And you have this really interesting back and forth dynamic where you have one side who are kind of really portrayed as the protagonist here, like, are wanting to disclose this thing. Everybody deserves to know. This shouldn't be a big secret. Like, why can't we trust this information with everybody? And then he's on the side of, well, not only do I have a financial interest in keeping this stuff safe, but also feel that humanity's not really ready to understand the entire truth, and doing, will it, everybody knowing, throw everything into chaos? Will people start questioning? And that's part of the deeper introspective stuff that I'm talking about in this movie, is like, if everybody understands and everybody knew the entire truth, would that change how everybody views their existence, their place in the world? Like, they do kind of go really well into like that dichotomy of, that line of thinking. And it's a really fun thing to explore that they do really well in this movie. So hats off to them for kind of having that done in a way that's not only entertaining, but also does get you to think a little bit. And it was fun to lose yourself in all of that and get caught up in it.
Yeah, because you get Jane, who is the girlfriend of Daniel in this film. She also brings another aspect to that, because we find out that she was trying to become a nun, but she didn't finish it. So she's bringing up those questions with Daniel as well. Like, we have a God that we worship and we look to being the all over creature. What happens when you have aliens from another planet? What happens to belief? What happens to religion? What happens to people when they have something else? Do they just instantly start worshiping aliens instead of God, and do the religions change? And it does get into that deeper aspect with that. As you said, it kind of uses Noah and Jane as kind of that both back and forth of, is this something you really should be doing? Because that Noah is protecting the company and the assets because he's working with the government and everything else to protect it, but he's also has that same outlook that Jane does. Like, can you really trust people with all this information? And I will say, Colin Firth was great as Noah. There are a few moments with him as well that feels a little off, though, because of just how, and this is probably the deepest I'll go, and light spoilerish, that Daniel has like 20, 30 hard drives that he's trying to extract to get to Hugo, who's played by Colman Domingo, who's fantastic.
Love
he
that
just
guy.
had a great performance in Michael. He's got another great performance in this film as well, as playing Hugo's kind of the man behind the screen, the man behind the curtain, who's kind of putting everything together for Daniel and what's trying to happen for Disclosure Day. But we kind of start off the film where Daniel is caught with the hard drives, and then he's able to get away because he's got one of the alien artifacts, and they're a bit scared of that. And then he gets caught again, and they have everything, but they left it in his backpack to where he could just grab it and walk away. But there was a few things with the story there that felt a little off of just...
A little convenient.
Just a little too convenient how he kept getting the drives back through it all. And part of that was on Noah, that it was kind of hard to read him at times exactly what his motivation is, especially at the very end. You're curious, and even the agents and other people are very curious, like what is he doing right now? He's acts like he will do anything to stop it, but then he won't, but he will, and it became a little bit off with exactly knowing what his motivation was. And we get maybe why some stuff happened in the end because of interactions with Emily Blunt's character changes people a lot, but I don't think it's as clear cut if that's why it happened. It's just like I said, there's those few moments that just feel a little too convenient because everything else is so well layered and done so really well outside of really the Wardex company itself and the agents. Like they were a little bit more of a letdown, while everything else, other than Colin Firth's performance, but those around him was kind of like they were just side characters doing whatever, not really knowing how to do their job. Like that's the biggest nitpick I have with this movie. Everything else was fantastic, but Wardex and the agents and how they handled and did things just felt so, I don't know, it's very convenient and easy. Like David Koepp wrote this. It's another big collaboration that Steven Spielberg had. They did the original Jurassic Park. He did War of the Worlds, which again, some people are take it or leave it on his. That, along with doing both of the new Indiana Jones. Of course, everyone despises the Crystal Skull. The last one was a little more mixed. That first one was hated, but they have had some really good films that they've worked together on. And I think this was overall a good collaboration that just missed the mark a little bit with those agents from being a truly outstanding film.
Sure, yeah, and those are fair criticisms. I mean, at this point, like, we enjoyed the movie so much, we're kind of nitpicking some minor things here that don't really hurt. We can kind of poke fun a little bit at some of the conveniences in the plot that I think are just, they're made to be convenient to kind of move everything along and not muck up stuff too much, because they are, while they're taking their time, they are moving.
And it's not trying to be a huge action film. Like, you have some action sequences, but I wouldn't call this an action-heavy film.
No, not at all. You get a little bit of that, and like I said, you get a little bit of the humor too. You get a little bit of everything, because you also get Wyatt Russell, who's playing Jackson, who is Margaret's boyfriend in the film, and he's a lot of the comic relief in this, because he gets portrayed as he's the loving boyfriend of Margaret, and you get their interactions early in the film, and then when she gets she goes through the issue at the TV station, there's a little bit of time spent in like a mental in the hospital, getting checked out because they're worried, because obviously he's like almost the most human person in this entire story, because he reacts very much as probably a loving boyfriend would. He's like, oh my God, I'm so concerned with you. Like, you had this what looked to be a mental breakdown on television, and like, I'm worried about you, just trying to do right by you, and he just doesn't know how. And it's so funny because he's probably the most humanly relatable person in this entire film. He feels like such a out of place person, but it works well enough as comedic relief where you almost get like, yeah, I get exactly why he's acting the way he is, and in some cases, and it was very, very funny to have him in here for this, and it was another fun performance in this movie, in my opinion.
And we joked before we started recording that he's just trying to take over Marvel superhero stuff, because he wears a jacket in the film that looks exactly what Hugh Jackman wore in the X-Men films. It has the kind of the brown stripes, like the leather coat that he had. So I'm like, all right, you already took over Captain America. Now you're trying to take on Wolverine and a Steven Spielberg film. Like, you're trying to collect the...
He's also in Monarch, so he's in the Godzilla universe too. Like
he's just trying to take on everything.
Yeah, he's one of these guys that's got his hands in a lot of different franchises, and good for him. I mean, obviously he's a Thunderbolt too, so it'll be fun to see what he does moving forward too. But yeah, like it's such a well-told story. It's so well done. The visuals are beautiful in it. It's such a well-shot movie, which you expect from a Steven Spielberg film. I mean, like you said, the guy's an absolute master of his craft. And is the movie perfect? No, it's not, without some minor issues like we've kind of discussed, but it's still such a good time in the theater, man. And you get that whole immersive experience. Like, I can't recommend enough going out and checking it in the theater too, because you get that one potentially final John Williams score in a film. Like, if you love that pairing, you get it, and it still works in 2026, which is just incredible. Especially, like you said, considering John Williams is 94 years old and still not missing a beat with this. And it's just like, oh my God, he's so good. Like,
I think it's a little bit more of a subtle, softer score.
Yeah, but it works.
But when that music kicks in, it has purpose, it has meaning, and it moves those scenes. Like, especially at the end, I got goosebumps on some of the stuff that they were showing, and I think the last movie that gave me that was Endgame.
Yeah, like it just works so well. It's so powerful. It doesn't have to be bombastic and over the top and overly dynamic, but the dynamic part of it is like, it's so powerful in its simplicity and its subtlety that it works so well. And I'm using a bunch of really corny nerdish terms here, but like it just works. And it's just, if you know, you know. It's that wonderful magic where music and film just pair so well together, and when done right, it's a really magical thing. And I think you get that in spades here. You talk about Oscars, I would not be surprised if this film was nominated for score. Like, I really wouldn't be surprised at all. It's John Williams.
Especially being John Williams.
Touches anything, he's probably at least going to be nominated. But it's that worthy of it. Like, it matches the tone of the film so well. It's like these two guys are just like synchronized so perfectly. Like, they share the same brain when it comes to that sort of thing. It's just really cool to experience, and I'm glad we got to experience that for potentially the final time. Like, you start talking like John Williams is 94. Who knows? Like, do you think he'll ever come back and do another movie with Spielberg again? Maybe not. Like, the chances for that get lesser by the day. But.
Seemingly, Spielberg's probably the only one who could get... I mean, I know he talked about his retirement isn't a full retirement. If he gets offered something and he feels right, he'd come back, and he came back for Spielberg. I almost feel like Spielberg may be the only one who gets him to come back again, but we don't know really what's next for Spielberg. And we heard about this just, late 20 or early 2025, and they got it in and got it put out and everything, because they're like, oh yeah, Steven Spielberg untitled UFO film up. It's happening. It's going. It seemed like it moved pretty quickly. You don't know how long it was actually in the works for it, but yeah, just having Spielberg back doing an alien-centric film, because it tries to be, as you said, Wyatt Russell's character Jackson is kind of the most human element of it, but it tries to tell this in less of a sci-fi way until it really gets into those artifacts of the aliens, and then that's where you really get the sci-fi and going heavy into the end. But the first is trying to kind of be more realistic in a way of,
I appreciated that.
This guy worked for this company, and he sees this, and they're holding all this information, and they're not letting the people know. And they said, you're going to religion and politics, and you're hitting all these different aspects of, shouldn't this information be out there? And of course, the DOD just put out, or the DOW, whatever they're calling themselves now, just put out some more alien videos this week. Like, you held on to some of that stuff just to show during the week of this coming out, but it's like, you have people questioning. Of course, you have conspiracy theorists and everything else online, and it taps into a little bit of that. It looked like in some of the footage there's some nods back to some like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and some other nods of like videos that we've seen come out of potential UFOs and UAP kind of stuff. Like, he kind of touched in what we haven't seen, what we have seen, and redid it in different ways, because you had like the ship crash in Roswell, New Mexico, but you had ship crashes over here, and you had that. Like, they touched on all the aspects that we know then went into stuff we don't know, touched into the film, depictions of aliens and stuff as well. And I just think it was just a love letter to that type of film making, of doing an alien film it was about the aliens, but not exactly a horror sci-fi type of movie. It's about exposing this information that the government has. And there is some more stuff I could nitpick, just being a geeky guy, like how Daniel could go into a news station and transfer like 2 terabytes of video data in like 2 minutes. Like, that's just not plausible.
Fantastical parts of filmmaking, Brad.
If you're the geeky guy, you're going to be like, no, you cannot transfer. Like, he's got 2060 gig.
What a nerd.
Drives that he's transferring onto a server. I'm like, you're not transferring those in like a 30 seconds per each one and just tossing them like they're like, if you're a tech guy, you're not tossing those hard drives out like that and transferring. But that one's more of just a geeky nitpick. Yeah. The agent stuff is things for me that took me a little bit out of the film because it got almost slapsticky. Yeah. And because I don't want to spoil the whole thing with the agents, because of that one where he steals a car, goes on a little bit more, and it ends in a silly, goofy way. Like, again, they know which direction they went, but they never look, and they're literally right next to you, but you never look. Like, it did take me out because it just felt so... I know this isn't the FBI. This isn't a big, supposed to be high intelligence squad, but if you have this squad of 40, 50, 60 people that are supposed to be the top guys to hunt this stuff down, they are so ridiculously bad at their job.
Oh yeah, they're very incompetent. It's laughably incompetent. That just kind of works in a way to allow the movie to progress and move forward, because it's so silly. Because in any realistic scenario with those guys, our protagonist would either be dead or in prison, and it wouldn't be any differently, right? But for the magic of filmmaking, they have to be a little bit inept, and Spielberg loves his protagonists that much that the bad guys around them have to be. I mean, look at all the Indiana Jones movies.
So some of that stuff I can deal with, and here it just felt so out of place because you're trying to, for the most part, telling a pretty serious tale with more heartfelt humor, and this was almost slapstick type. Like I said, Benny Hill type of humor with these agents, of just how inept and bad that they were. Even the acting from some of them were pretty rough as well. Like,
I mean, you got some very obviously inexperienced people playing some of these agents.
So that's the main thing that took me out of the film was that kind of stuff. Like, you got me intrigued. Like, I was it was a 2.5 hour movie, or almost a 2.5 movie, but I was glued to my seat. Because like I said, things happen quickly. It unfolds kind of quickly. You move, because it doesn't waste time. It gets right into it. And goes. And I was not expecting opening with a wrestling scene in a Spielberg film like that, because, Daniel's hiding out inside of there and stuff. But it really starts quickly, but it was that slow burn of the information. So like, all right, what does this mean? How is this working? And I felt satisfied by the end of how they unraveled everything and the information. You could say it's mostly predictable. You could predict the direction they were going, but I didn't care because of how they unfurled that information and they led you on. And the great performances by Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor and stuff really led that. And Colin Firth playing Noah was great in there as well, and Coleman Domingo was great. And he didn't have a ton of scenes, but he made them count when he was in there. Especially, there's a great dialogue between Noah and Hugo that happened that you really felt in that moment. Like, Coleman is just a fantastic actor in there.
So
but
good, dude.
Yeah, just everyone played their roles very well, other than the agents. I'm still going to nitpick at them because they annoyed me. Because this was something I could have been very close to giving a 10 for my own enjoyment with, but they do knock some points off and drop it because I just felt like it was just so out of place with how of the serious tone that they were trying to do with it. Because around that situation is a very kind of dangerous and emotional scene that was happening with that house being surrounded, was happening with his girlfriend and him. Like, it was very emotional, but you didn't fully get that payoff because of I'm hearing the Benny Hill theme in my head while the agents are chasing him.
It's a fair criticism, and I would be remiss if, being the wrestling nerd that I am, if I didn't give a shout out to Lance Archer and Brian Cage, were the two wrestlers that were depicted in that from AEW. That was pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that to start off the film. I'm like, oh, I know those two guys. Like that was pretty cool to see, as well as just a real fun opening scene to kind of kick things off or whatever. But it was cool to have that included. But yeah, I mean, minor nitpicks aside, this is still such a good movie. Like we had a good time watching it. Inept, antagonist agents aside, like you still get at its core a very deep, heartfelt movie that, you get this story where you can touch on so many different points where you are serious. You have a little bit of humor. You have, a little bit of action mixed in too. It's not over the top. It's not like extravagant, but it's in there and it mixes in well when it needs to. You get some awesome, fun chase scenes and stuff like that, really, that are most of the action in it are chase scenes, but like you still, you feel the stakes of the situation that are prevalent throughout it, and they kept the stakes up throughout the entire movie. Like, it was a big deal. Like, it was constantly like trying to jump through hoops to get this information out there, and this group that had they been a little better, they probably could have stopped it. But it's not the story they were trying to tell. But you know what I mean. But it was still so well done, and just a really, really good punch of a story. Like it kind of whops you with a couple different themes that work out really well and mix really well, and the story's told, and it's not too heavy-handed with anything. And I think that was a good part of it too, because it's not overly religious, and it's not overly political, and it's not overly socially commentary, and like it's not beating you over the head with any one thing. It just takes those elements and they all work together so well to tell a really fun story, man. And I had a blast watching it.
Yeah, I'm also glad, and I'm not going to give away the ending and stuff, but when things really start bursting off at the end where you're getting, whatever happens there, I'm glad they allowed you to sit in it, and it wasn't just like 30 seconds or a minute.
Correct.
And like, yeah, you've sat through 2 hours and, 10 minutes of stuff. We're just going to get it over with in about 30 seconds and then move on. It allowed you to sit in that like you were someone in that city or the country who is experiencing it with them, of having that information being shown and displayed, and whatever happens at the end, you're sitting there and being surprised and shocked and getting all that information at once. And I'm glad it just wasn't because at times it can be when you get a film that you'll hit that ending and it's 30 seconds and it's over with, and like, okay, we waited 2 hours for that. It allowed you to sit in that moment really well. I appreciated that. Yeah, it had some fun. Like it tried to do a little bit more sci-fi elements with, there's just like 3 devices that can basically, I don't know if they all do the same power or if it's just depending on who's using it of how the power is done. It gets into a little bit kind of crazier sci-fi with that, and I didn't mind it. It was kind of a decent break within there. I mean, it helped carry many parts of the film. If you cut it out and replace it with something else, it may have been just about the same. It was fun to watch, but it wasn't exactly like, they didn't go deep into the science of anything with it, but there were some fun moments with it. But yeah, overall, it was a lot of fun sitting in there. I was gripped the whole time. It had me on the edge of my seat watching and knowing, even though I said like it can be pretty predictable, but Spielberg lays it out in such an incredible way that you don't care that some of the stuff is predictable at the end. Like
you don't care at all.
He's just really telling it and weaving in such a good way, because there's so many times you'll try to get a movie that's trying to be mysterious and hiding information and slowly letting the information out that you don't feel like you got a payoff, and you absolutely got the payoff in this film.
Sure, you get the big payoff, and that's the magical part of Spielberg films. Like, he just takes you for a ride. Not every one of his films are perfect by any means, but this feels like kind of a return to form of that magic that he has. And when he's on his game, you get really well done stories like this. And I'm glad that we made the journey out to watch this. And this is one of our movies we were really anticipating, just because, we love Spielberg as much as we do. And, when you get a guy like this making another film, it's just like, all right, now we get to really see what he's got. Does he still got the touch? Does he still got that magic that we know he's capable of doing? And I think we got that with this film. I really do. Like, it's a ton of fun. I want to go back and watch it again. Yep. Like, I really do. I want to go back and explore it again. I want to kind of just dive in. I really want to watch it here at home, like in my house, like, you know, with the surround sound that I have, and just kind of really lose myself in the story again. But by all means, please go see this in theaters. Like, this is definitely one that was made for a cinematic experience, because you do, like I've said multiple times in this review, you get Spielberg and John Williams together in something that just works so well. And
that's enough of a reason to go to a theater.
It deserves to be seen in a theater for that reason alone. Even if the film might not have been great at the end, it still was. But to see those two paired up on the big screen again, it's something that'll get my butt in a seat every time.
Yeah, so Disclosure Day is a fantastic alien-centric film. Like, it's sci-fi, but it's not hard sci-fi. So if you're not into hard sci-fi, you're going to find stuff to enjoy in here. Emily Blunt gives a fantastic performance. She really carries a lot of the weight in this film. Of course, you got John Williams back doing the score of it, and he matches the scenes perfectly. The story is told in kind of a frantic manner, but it allows the slow burn of the overall message and meaning and information that you're expecting to see to just take as much time as it needs to get that great payoff in the end. I was close to giving this probably a 9.5, but I think I'm going to end it with a 9 out of 10. The few issues I had just took me out of the film with the agents because they were just so inept and over the top, and there were some comedic elements that I don't think were meant to be comedic elements, or if they were, they just kind of didn't fit the tone and the seriousness of the movie. Like, it took me out of the film a little bit, that I had to take marks off for that. Plus, there's some really convenient type of ways that the story unfolds, and it's so close to being a fantastic, really amazing film. It still is, but it could have been closer to a 10 out of a 10 if it wasn't for those few issues. But I had a great time. It's worth seeing in theaters, and it's just Spielberg back to form.
It always makes me laugh when we get really close in our movie gradings, because I'm giving it a 9 as well. We never talk about these things, obviously, before we do it, but we want to be on the same page quite a bit. I mean, every once in a while we're off, but yeah, I mean, you kind of hit on all the notes that I had on it too. Like, you laugh a little bit. I think it was kind of meant to kind of take a little bit of the edge off with how serious a lot of the parts of the film are, to kind of get you back before it goes back into it again. And I kind of hope that was intentional. Spielberg, as much attention as he pays the detail, you kind of have to think it is, but it is. It's a little. It felt very Stormtrooper-esque with these guys a little too much, but it was still a ton of fun. It's such a good movie, like you said. You get that wonderful pairing of music and story that you get in this. The magic of John Williams. John Williams is going to make any movie almost an automatic 7 for me. At least I love everything that man has done, but you know, this story was done so well. It hits all the right notes for me. It's got a high rewatchability. I'm definitely excited to see this film again the second I can. Like, I'm excited to go back and deal with this. You get great performances throughout as well. Like I said, a really well done cast that, you know, a couple of people do the heavy lifting throughout the bulk of this movie, but it works. These guys all play off each other so well. They have the roles done about as well as you can do in a film like this, and it just really hits all the right notes of a good, deep, introspective science fiction story. So good. We need movies like this that aren't, you know, the same multiple franchise things, which they have their own place, but this is a real fun, original story, and I was very excited that we got this. And you know, Spielberg back in the director's chair. What more can I ask for in a good movie? It was a ton of fun and worth the watch.
I'm so glad this turned out to be good, because the trailers had looked interesting, but I actually thought they were going to be going in some different ways from the trailers than it did in the actual film, which I'm happy that it didn't give away everything, because too many trailers nowadays give away the entire film, especially like if it's a rom-com or something like that.
You get the whole movie.
You get the entire movie in a trailer. You got some interesting tidbits in the trailer, but there's still plenty of mystery and heart and, like I said, great performances to watch in this film. So I'm just glad that we did get some good stuff that we wasn't expecting from the trailer and stuff. Like I said, beside my nitpicks about the, as you said, Stormtroopers is a good description of them. They're just so inept that it's like they're supposed to be the best of the best for this company.
Yeah.
And they're just so bad. They're the red shirts in Star Trek of just guys who are there to be the extras. And if we have to kill some off or hurt them or do something else to them, because one of them does have something happen to them and all this other stuff, it's just, they're kind of the disposable guys that, well, whatever we need to turn this or do this, we're just going to have them do it, whether it looks slapsticky or not. As you said, Spielberg pays quite a bit of attention to what he does. So it probably was intentional. But it just took me out of it for how it was. It was just because that was, like I said, the main scene I'm complaining about had a deep emotional kind of heaviness to it.
Yeah.
And then you get the
truncated with that. Yeah. A little bit of slapstick.
Yeah, just a little bit of slapstick was like, especially like him running through the field was ridiculous. But then when you get how the agents responded, it was just insane.
Little too convenient. But these are minor nitpicks that we have, and it doesn't hurt our enjoyment of the film.
It's still a very watchable film.
Still so good. Like it definitely didn't hurt our enjoyment of it at all. Disclosure Day is in theaters now. Please go check it out. We would love to hear what you think about it. We really hope this movie does well, and we're so excited that we got to watch this film and talk about it. This was one that we really, really enjoyed.
So thank you so much for tuning in, and if you feel so inclined, do all the things to help the show out, from follows, shares, likes, and comments on social media to subscribing on YouTube and your favorite audio platforms. All of it helps us out so much, and we can't thank you enough for all the support.
You can also become a subscriber over on Patreon to get each episode delivered to you early, exclusive merch items, and your name read out at the end of every episode. Check it out at patreon.com/we'll bring the popcorn.
That's going to do it for this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.